Hello, in today's video, I'm interviewing Miss Barbara Beeman. This is a wonderful woman that I've known for a few years. I met her through a mom's program called Moms to Moms. Think of it as like a MOPS program, but it's open for moms of all ages, stages, and walks of life. Miss Barbara has been a mentor mom with this program and has been a wonderful mentor in my life. Not only that, I noticed that Miss Barbara was involved in some of the more historically minded organizations in the community. She has a volunteer heart and she proved to be very knowledgeable about some things in history. And so I wanted to sit down with her, talk to her about the women's suffrage movement, the things that she's been involved in the community, and get her take on a couple of the issues that I address in Among the Pages. So here she is, Miss Barbara. Tell my readers a little about yourself, your family, where you're from, and how you ended up here in Middle Tennessee.
Okay. Well, actually, I started out in Middle Tennessee. I was born in Nashville. My father had a drugstore down in the Hillsborough Village, and that's still it's still an area, But the house where we lived is now a parking garage for Vanderbilt. Children's Hospital is on the street that I grew up on, only it's now called Children's Way. So, I'm at least ninth generation Tennessean.
You've been involved in some of the more historically minded organizations in our community. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think I was born, well, I'm a born volunteer. It's part of my mother's legacy, I think, because when I was growing up, I started out in a little 4th-grade school. And this is in the heart of Nashville, in the shadow of Vanderbilt. There were children who came to school with no shoes until the weather got cold and the PTA would buy them shoes. And so, this is part of my legacy. And then when we came here, it was Cub Scouts, and I became the first officially recognized female Cub Master in Middle Tennessee because I was willing to do the job, but I wasn't willing to say I'd do something else and have my husband's name. And I directed day camp. Then I did the band thing. But meanwhile, I had gotten involved in what we now call family and community educators. We started out as home demonstration clubs with an affiliation with UT Extension Service. And probably the most significant thing that I have done there, there's two. One of them was I helped start recycling in this community. There was absolutely none when we started, and helped pave the way for that. And then I've been very instrumental in the Smith Traherne Mansion, which is, of course, city-owned property, but we run it. And those are probably the things that are most visible. I have had a run in politics, but, that's an interesting story. That's something else. But anyway, that's it.
Excellent. I definitely remember being at the Smith Traherne Mansion several times in my school career. It seemed like they have a beautiful Christmas there, or they did.
Right. Yeah, we have. Mm-hmm.
You still have that?
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing because we have different artists from all over the community who decorate trees, and then we have it open for school tours, and we have a big open house. Which part of our deal with the city is that we are supposed to be open to the public for free at least once a year. I mean, we charge a really terrific fee of $2 for adults. Children are always free. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we'll have to take the kids this Christmas because it was always something that we did as school kids. Yeah.
And then when budgets got tight, they didn't do as much field trips with the kids, mostly daycares, and then some private schools would come. But we have on the first Sunday in December is always our open house. And that's when we have entertainment and refreshments and Santa Claus.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, we're always looking for nice things to do at Christmas time, but it's just something I didn't think of, I'll tell you a little bit about the book. It's actually they call it a time slip. I know that sounds like time travel, but there's no time travel in the book. Time slips are books that take place part in a contemporary period, part in a historical period. And the historical period takes place during the women's suffrage movement, the later years. There's a character in the book that is heavily involved in the women's suffrage movement. The contemporary character is in Tennessee at the University of Memphis. Um, and she is experiencing kind of a view of modern day feminism through the eyes of someone who is curious but cautious. And she's come across a diary. The woman in the suffrage movement is her great great aunt, and
Oh.
so she's kind of looking at how kind of feminism began in a sense to
Mm-hmm.
what it's become today. How is it the same? How is it different?
Mm-hmm.
How do you view that through the lens of a Christian worldview? All of these kind of things. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a big part of what's going on in the book.
Oh, it sounds exciting.
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun to flesh it out, a lot of fun to do the research about the suffrage movement. But really, um, some Christian writers say that you work out your faith, work out your salvation through with fear and trembling, of course, as you write. And there's so
Uh-huh.
much that I discovered as I wrote out my characters' experiences that, didn't happen, but, they happened for me in my mind as I wrote it out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was just an interesting inner discussion that I had with
Uh-huh.
myself and God, as I wrote it out.
Uh-huh.
So the next question, so my book debuting today, Among the Pages, features a character that is a suffragist. And today, Tuesday, is significant in that regard, especially for Tennessee. I'm
Absolutely.
so proud that I am from Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
and that we are celebrating on this day. But I will let you talk about why that is significant for Tennessee.
Well, it's the really cool part is that the suffragists tried to go through the state route of getting states to give women the right to vote, and that wasn't working. And they finally decided to work for an amendment. And of course, there were 48 states. It takes 2/3 majority, so it had to have 36 states. And they were running out of states. I mean, some of the states you would think would be in favor, they weren't. And it's like so they talked the governor of Tennessee into calling a special session in 1920 to address the issue. And they had a lot of promises of help until the antis got a hold of it, and that was the liquor lobby. Oh, Jack Daniels had a great time. The
Mhm.
railroad lobby. There was something else. But anyway, all these people that, um, and it became an issue of race.
Mm.
There were so many things at play that they started working. In fact, the young man who cast an important vote, Harry Byrne, he was in favor of suffrage, and his mother was a very well-read woman. She read many newspapers every day, and they had talked about it. But when he got to Nashville to vote, his mentor was a staunch anti, and they really um, pressured him, and so he was wearing a red rose. You probably know that the people who were against suffrage wore red roses, and the people who were pro-suffrage wore yellow roses. And he was wearing a red rose. But when the vote came to him, the actual vote, they had tried to table the amendment to keep it from coming to a vote. But when it finally did, he voted for it. And a man who had held back his vote voted for it too. And it became a majority vote that they couldn't recall.
Mm.
And of course, the wonderful story about him, and he was the youngest member of the legislature, but he listened to his mama. I have a little necklace. I don't know if you can see it, but
Oh,
this
yeah.
is a tri-state, but it's got a little heart on it. It's Tennessee gave women the right to vote, and the little heart is for Harry Byrne, who listened to his mama.
Oh,
And as a
yeah.
mother of sons, now, oh God, I'm going to get biblical on you.
Mhm.
In John, Jesus' first miracle,
Mm.
who instigated that?
Mary, his mother.
His mama. His mama saw a need that he could fill and told him to do it. As a mother of sons, I'm aware of that. There have been times when I've seen something where one of my sons could make a difference, and I nudged them into that.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of story about, was it time? It had to be time, or it wouldn't have happened.
Mm.
And once Jesus did that first thing, it was no going back. And
Yeah.
he knew all those things. So there's so many things at play that people blame her, but
Mm.
no, it was the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, we looked into, and maybe at some point we'll go see, there's a statue in Knoxville
Oh, yes.
for
I
Henry
haven't
Barron
seen that one
Harrington.
yet. Yeah, uh-huh.
And his mom. It was just erected in the last
Last
couple of
year.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Knoxville had a statue, oh, a number of years ago. I can't remember, but oh, 10 or 15 years ago at what they call Market Square.
Hmm.
And the cool thing, we've just unveiled a statue in Clarksville. And the there's an actual suffragist who is very prominent in the movement who lives from Jackson, and they just have a bust of her in Jackson. We've got this whole, huge statue, and it's just
Hmm.
an interesting thing in communities and the dedication to it. So I
Yeah.
might be getting ahead of myself. I don't
No,
know,
that's fine. That's
but
absolutely.
the suffrage movement did not become law of the land until I think it was August the 26th, when the
Hmm.
Secretary of State signed it into law. But our celebration is the 18th when Harry said yes.
Hmm. Yeah, and the way that the account goes, as I understand, is he had the letter, the 7-page letter from his mom,
Yes,
in
in
his
his
pocket.
pocket. Yes,
Yeah.
he did, and we have copies of that. It's
Hmm.
she didn't write just about that, but that was
Hmm.
that was on her heart.
Yeah,
We
that's
mamas have a lot of influence if we can, if they'll listen to us.
yeah, absolutely. Because that is so interesting to me. It was the third vote. Yeah, they had voted twice, and it
Hmm.
was complete deadlock. And then
Yeah.
they changed the way that they were voting. They were voting to table it, or to
Yes.
they voted on the amendment, because the first
Well,
one
they
was
were.
voted.
Well, they were. The Senate passed the amendment handily. That they ratified quickly, but the House was another story, and they had the votes coming in. But then, like I said, all these there was shenanigans, a lot of nasty stuff, all kinds of stuff going on to sway
Mhm.
that, and the religious group was in there too. I mean, the whole thing. It was a lot of controversy stirred up
Mhm.
there, and the woman who was leading the anti-suffragists was really, one would not have thought from her background that she would take that stand, but there are a lot of Southern things at work here too,
Mhm.
and the racial issue was a big part of that actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember reading that the push for the black vote
Mhm.
became muddled in there, or
Mhm.
muddled the
It did.
suffrage
It
vote.
did. It did.
Mhm.
But some of the black women made a big difference in that. They really
Mhm.
did.
Excellent. One of the things that I didn't foresee being so important to me at the time when I was writing is that I do feature Carrie Chapman Cat in a
Hmm.
scene at a rally. And I didn't know at the time that the statue in Nashville
Hmm. It includes
features
her.
her likeness.
Yes.
So I wondered if you could tell us anything about Carrie Chapman Cat.
Well, she was in charge of the National Women's Suffrage Association, and she helped to realize that this working with the states wasn't going to work. We had to have a national amendment, and then she was an organizer. She
Mm,
was very adept at that. And then in 1920, she came to Nashville. Oh, I don't remember the exact dates now, but she thought she'd just be here a little while. I think
mm,
she ended up being here like 3 months because it wasn't the simple thing that
mm,
she had perhaps thought, but it was a hard fought battle. And she came and lent her expertise because she was really good at organizing people and
mm,
opportunities. And of course, when you're in a different place from where you're used to working, that
mm.
offers more challenges. But um, she was a stalwart, and she helped get it done.
Mm, excellent. Yeah, I only did a little research on her, and what I found was just admirable. She seemed like a really amazing woman.
And she did bow to the racists a little bit because it was, for her, getting the vote passed was the most important thing.
Mm,
And so she perhaps compromised some on that,
mm,
on the right, because in the South, of course, even though you know well, we still had Jim Crow. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
really boils down to in the South. And so there are a lot of issues to be
Mm-hmm.
dealt with racially, but so um, but we got it done, and the Black women, they worked at it.
Thank you so much for joining me for this interview. And of course, thank you to Miss Barbara for sharing and for her work in the community. This has only been one segment of this video. If you would like to catch the rest, please check out my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon and subscribe. You can reach my YouTube channel by clicking on the link in the comment section. If you're already on my YouTube channel, you can find the rest here. You can also find these segments on the Among the Pages page in my website, saraturnquist.com. Thank you.